So today we're actually going to be on unit, it says unit 3, but it should actually be unit 6.2. And we'll actually be talking about human impact. How have we impacted other environments or other populations, and what are we doing to our environment, to our ecosystems? And so we're going to start off on page 131 and really start by talking about, well, how has the human population grown, and what were factors that allowed for the increase in our population? So some historical facts or historical causes have been the agricultural revolution. The agricultural revolution allowed for there to be a lot more food, and with more food we're able to support more people. With the agricultural revolution, we've also been able to start to develop more towns, more cities. More people have been able to live in one area because now that we're able to grow crops, well, now a lot of people can live in one place. We're not scavenging or trying to gather from different areas. From there, we build up to the Industrial Revolution. And in the Industrial Revolution, we have improvements in technology and medicine. And with both of those, we've been able to increase our birth rates and also decrease our death rates, which is really important. With more births and a decrease in deaths, well, that's allowed for our population to continue to grow even more. And one of the third causes, or the last cause that we'll talk about, is urbanization. Urbanization is the development of the cities, development of economic and social situations. And so with these three causes, this is what has allowed for our population to increase so rapidly. And one thing that we need to keep in mind is that as we have more people, well, we actually cause more environmental problems. It just goes hand in hand. Thinking about what does it mean with the Industrial Revolution, with technology, with factories and the building of materials, well, what effects do we have on our environment? And with urbanization, well, the development of cities, what had to happen for those cities to be able to be put in place, for those cities to be built? Okay, how have we affected our environments? And that's the main goal of this unit, trying to look into how have we affected our environment and what are some things that we can do to help reverse some of those effects. So first of all, we do need to look at this chart right here. Looking at this graph, what we actually see is the human population and how the population has changed through these different ages, and notice also through these different eras. Notice when we were still hunting and gathering, we had a very low population. This is the human population growth in billions. Very low when we were hunting and gathering. But as the agricultural revolution began, and that's the first point that we talked about, we start to see this increase in this red line, which is the increase in our population. And as we move on to the industrial era or industrial revolution, we actually have this exponential increase. And notice that the human population is actually showing a J curve. What does the J curve mean? Well, this meant that there was exponential growth. If we think back to unit 6.1, exponential growth, and there are no limiting factors. Or at least that's what our graph is showing right now. This increase is showing there's no limiting factors. We don't really see a carrying capacity on this graph, and so we're growing and growing and growing and growing, and right now it's not really stopping. But some effects of human population growth and this exponential growth that we've seen is there has been a lot of overcrowding in certain areas. When we think about the cities, There have also been increases in pollution. Thinking back, you do have to remember that all environmental problems are going to relate back to human overpopulation. The more people in one area, the more garbage in one area. The more people in one area, the more cars or motorcycles in one area. The more exhaust in one area. Okay? Garbage, land pollution, air pollution, water pollution. All of those are going to go back to the amount of people, the overcrowding in those different areas. It doesn't always have to be overcrowded to have pollution, but a lot of times there is going to be a direct effect. We'll also have a decrease in our natural resources. Think about this. The more people you have, well, the more resources you need. And just in order to have that city or that town, what did you have to first do to have that there? And the last topic, or the last effect, is that increase in land use. So some solutions to our problems, to the overpopulation, or the overcrowding of the areas, would be zero population growth. And what this idea means is that you're going to have your birth rates equal out to your death rates. And for example, in some countries like China, there's actually some tax incentives for having just one child. Educating people and also birth control can be other ways to help decrease this increase in our population. When you're thinking about this zero population growth and this birth rate equals death rate, this really means is if you end up having two people, if you have two people, when they have family, if each of them only have 2 kids, if they as a couple have only 2 kids, well, when they pass away, well, their kids take their place. And so you're not increasing the population, and the population isn't decreasing, but there's a zero growth. Other solutions to the problems that are caused by the rise in our population would be conservation, being careful with our resources. If you flip to the next page, you'll actually see 3 ways in which we can conserve materials. We can reduce the amount of materials that are used, so thinking about the packaging that we use for our products. Reuse, using recycled or reusable water bottles instead of just regular water bottles that you buy at the store. And recycling, returning those products back to be reprocessed and reused. And the last solution would, or as a result of these solutions, we will hopefully ensure sustainability, and that's having the available resources for those future generations. So by doing these things, hopefully we'll have resources we need later on, and they'll be available for those generations. The last thing in this unit that we want to look at are these histograms. And these histograms are actually going to show ages and percents of males versus females in the population. Here are actually 3 different histograms representing 3 different countries: Kenya, the United States, and Germany. And from a histogram, you can actually see or study the increasing, stable, or decreasing populations. So if you look here at Kenya's population, what you're actually seeing is this is the percent of the population that's male versus female. And going on your y-axis, you're actually seeing the age groups there. So from 0 to 4, infant to 4 years old, to 8 years old and plus. In a country where there's an increasing population, you'll actually see this larger bottom portion of the triangle, and you'll see more growth at the bottom, but a decrease at the top. So there's more people being born than those that are passing away. In a population like the United States, you'll actually see there's going to be more of a stable growth occurring, or a slow growth occurring, so you're not having a significant difference between the children or the infants that are being born to those that are dying. You'll also notice that in the middle, it's actually evening out more. In a country where there's decreasing growth or negative growth, you'll actually see that the population of those being born are actually going to be less than what is actually coming up. So if you pay attention to how this graph moves up, you're going to eventually have more people that are passing away from this section than those that are actually being born. And that's going to be it for our notes today. We will spend some time in class looking over some more examples of these histograms and evaluating these types of populations.